Today I'm going to show off one of the most iconic watches not many people ever talk about. Let's get into it! Yes, and welcome to the Mad Watch Collector Show. And today is a very special show on the brand Vulcain. Now, a few months ago, I was very fortunate enough to review their vintage-inspired skin diver, which I absolutely loved. It's a watch right up my alley, and recently Vulcain contacted me again, asking whether I'd like to do a review of their flagship watch. So obviously I said, yeah. And this watch today is one of those big icons that don't get talked about that often. But not today. Now, Vulcain formed in 1858 in Le Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland. They were predominantly a fine pocket watch maker, and it wasn't until World War II, when everyone started wearing watches on the wrist, did they start making wrist watches. In 1947, they released a mechanical alarmed watch, nicknamed the Cricket, a very special watch with a double-barreled movement. And in the 1950s, the White House Press Photography Association gifted President Truman a solid gold Vulcain Cricket. It was from that moment the Cricket became known as the President's Watch, with the likes of Eisenhower and Johnson all receiving these watches. Anyway, in 2024, the brand Vulcain has been revitalized as a brand, and I think the Vulcain Cricket is one of the most overlooked watches in our watch world. Now, before I go any further, I have to say a huge disclaimer. Yes, the watch sent in by Vulcain to me, I don't have to send back. But you guys know I tell it like it is. If something negative needs to be said, I'll say it. But just know this is a watch I have admired from afar, and it's an honor to finally get my hands on one. So let's show you the watch, tell you what I honestly think at the end, give you my wife's opinion as well, and let's get stuck into a cricket. Are you Vulcain ready? Let's go. So ladies and gentlemen, here you are. This is one of the most stunning, dressiest watches I have ever had on the channel before. It's so refined, it's so elegant. I had the choice of what dial color I wanted. I chose what they call a pale salmon color. I also chose the strap. Polished almost everywhere apart from a little bit of the bezel and the case back. Look at that bubbly sapphire crystal. I mean, you wouldn't see anyone with a tracksuit wearing this, would you? It feels and looks like a bit of a work of art. I'm used to rugged, tall sports watches, you know. It looks like an instrument, you know, a refined instrument. Something that a president or prime minister would wear, you know, some big high up figure anyway. It's a bit of a stunner, isn't it? Quick spec check! Okay, so amazingly, this watch is only 36 millimeters in diameter. For a mechanical alarm watch, this is pretty special. The thickness is just over 13 millimeters, but that's because we have a 3 millimeter dome to that sapphire glass. It's 44 lug to lug and a pretty strapaholic lug width of 18 millimeters. The crown and pusher isn't screwed in. We do have a screw down exhibition case back. This watch only has 50 meters of water resistance, but come on people, I mean, this is a dress watch. You shouldn't be going anywhere near water with this puppy on your wrist. Now, I'm going to do this review a little bit differently. I'm going to go straight to the movement because this is what is so special with this watch. Now, on show, we have an in-house V10 caliber. It's a manual wind watch and it has 2 barrels to wind up. If you turn it clockwise, you are winding up the alarm, counterclockwise, and you're winding up the mainspring of the watch. And just look at this in action. Here's me winding up the alarm, and then the gear changes to allow me to wind up the watch. Absolutely fantastic looking movement. Well above my pay grade. This engine has 165 components to it. Nickel plated, blued screws. It has 52 hours of power reserve, 25 joules, and it beats away at 18,000 beats per hour. So a good old fashioned vintage sweep. Right, so operating this watch. So I've showed you how it winds. First of all, pull out the crown and we can set the time. This movement has a little quirk to it. You can only set it forward. However, we don't have a date complication, so it's not too laborious. Push the crown back in. Then if you push the alarm button, in. That pops the crown out and allows you to turn the alarm hand to where you want the alarm to be. Push the crown back in and you are set. Once the hour hand meets the alarm hand, this is the sound you get. Ready? Vibrations. Now on a full charge, it lasts up to 20 seconds. Now what that sound is there is a little hammer very quickly hitting against an internal membrane, which gives it this sort of cricket noise.
Hence the nickname Cricket.
Now you can stop that alarm from continuing just by pressing the alarm trigger. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wonderfully crafted little movement. I have to admit, I have never operated a watch like this before. Maybe the bel canto, but the experience of winding it, setting it, and then having it go off is something a watch enthusiast would need to tick off a bucket list.
Could you just click that like button, please? It really helps the channel. Thank you.
Now the strap I chose, I think it complements the dial. It's a brown leather alligator style, very well made, quite stiff, but this thing's gonna last for a long time. Love the tang buckle with the polished logo. Just all very refined stuff, isn't it? Okay, time to look at the face.
Dial time.
And these are dials you don't see that often on the Mad Watch Collector channel. I love the colour of this pale salmon. It's not too showy. It's not too salmony. The baton applied markers are very elegant. Love the touch of the applied V logo under Vulcain. And I do love that minute track going along the outside of the dial. Very pointy Dauphine hands, exquisitely cut, very sophisticated, tiny seconds hand, and a great arrow-headed alarm hand that again looks awesome.
Hello.
On my 6.5-inch wrist, it just looks elegant, refined. I don't feel I suit it because I don't wear these kind of watches that often. But for anyone that works in the office, in charge of a country or two, this watch would look great on all wrists. It's just a very cool icon that not many people know about. So there you go, the Vulcain Cricket President. Now you can get this watch in a few dial variations and sizes. The combination of the pale salmon dial and this brown alligator strap, I think, shows off this watch the best. Now yes, this is not a cheap watch. To buy this watch, it's going to cost you £3,570. But if you're a watch enthusiast and you know about watch movements, and not just about how good a watch looks, you will understand the price. All you have to do is look at Christopher Ward's bel canto, a chiming watch that took the watch world by storm a couple of years ago, still storming now. Those watches are around £3,000. They're made from titanium and they are very light, so much so that they almost vibrate in your hands. This feels like a very expensive vintage watch that your granddad passed down to you through generations. It has a movement with a history of well over 70 years, from a brand that has been around since the 1850s. Vulcain has been on the wrist of very important people. But when you're talking about mechanical watches with alarms, they're very few and far between, and they are very expensive. Much more expensive than the Cricket. So if you are in the market for a phenomenally made vintage-inspired watch with an exclusive in-house movement that took the world by storm in 1947, now running at its best it's ever ran, Vulcain and the Cricket cannot be ignored. So here it is, my wife's first impressions of the Vulcain Cricket President. Well, I don't like the strap. It's very ugly and old manny. I do like the dial, but not the big knob above the twisty knob. In-depth reaction there from my wife. I never tell her the price of the watches. She always gives it to me black and white. And she didn't hate this one. Thank you so much to Vulcain for sending this watch into me. I hope I did it justice. It's not going to be for everyone, especially when it comes to the price, but I hope you can understand why it's that price. If you want a bit more of the Mad Watch Collector channel, click there and join. But if I've got you for a few more minutes, why don't you click this one? And if I do say so myself, this one's rather spiffing. Go on, it's full of horological beautiness. Go on, click it. Click it, click it.